This is an EOS Rebel, a T5 or something? At least that's what Craig kept repeating when I borrowed this camera from him, made me promise to replace it if I break it, as if that isn't common sense. Is it expensive? I asked. Oliver shrugged. I didn't check. Maybe. Do you have your phone on you? He glanced at my Speedos and immediately looked away as if he'd burned his eyes. You're a photographer today, I reminded him. You're supposed to look. Not there. He focused on the camera as if that was the only way he could keep his eyes from darting to my junk again, as if he was a virgin or something. It was kind of endearing. I don't have my phone on me, I said, but I can hold the camera for you if you want to look it up. Only if you'll face me, though. He looked up at me with a frown. I can face you. He stood taller, as if he had just given himself an internal pep talk. Here. He handed the camera to me. I looked through the viewfinder at him while he tapped on his phone. It was true that the camera was zoomed in too close. When I pointed it at his face, I could make out a tiny round scar next to his left eye, a small imperfection I wouldn't otherwise have noticed. With my index finger, I found the trigger and took a picture. What are you doing? Oliver asked, glancing up. On camera, his eyes looked even brighter than they did in real life. Damn, I'd always had a soft spot for blue-eyed boys. Nothing, I said, lowering the camera. Did you find anything? Maybe. Let me try. I handed the too complicated device back to him. Here you go. All right. He pressed some buttons on the back and looked through it again. Okay, this should work. Great. I walked a little closer to the pool. How do you want me? Judging by the expression on his face, it was hard to tell whether he hadn't given this enough thought or too much thought. My gut instinct told me it was the latter. How had I never noticed him on campus before? Was my gaydar failing? I could give you the same pose as the other guy asked for, I suggested with a smile. As much as I dreaded coming here today, this was starting to be fun. Let me get wet first. Those pictures come out better. Sure. Oliver's voice came out unsteady, and he didn't hide the fact that he was staring at me while I jumped into the water. Yep, he definitely had the hots for me. Oddly, that was exactly the ego boost I'd needed today. I might not be able to make anyone stay, but I could still get them through the door. Dripping wet, I climbed out of the pool and plastered a smile on my face for my admirer. Oliver hid his face behind the camera. The shutter clicked while I was still in motion. A good shot, or a nervous twitch of his finger? I put my hands on my hips, posing for Oliver the way the other photographer had asked me to. The shutter clicked again. I smiled, I scowled, and Oliver kept taking pictures. Getting any good ones? I asked. We can meet again at another time, if you need more material. Finally, Oliver lowered the camera. His gaze didn't run down my body, but his face looked as if he would benefit from a cold shower, and though his pants weren't as revealing as my Speedos, I could tell that he was hard. When he noticed the line of my gaze, his flush deepened. I half expected him to apologize or try to cover up, but he didn't either of those things. I'd like another meeting, he said instead. But not for pictures. Finally, his eyes darted to my junk. Wow. Was he actually making a move on me? I'd taken him for the type that would hem and haw and blush furiously before asking me out for dinner, but he had more guts than I'd given him credit for. Or not. Maybe it was my reputation that gave him courage. I might not have heard about him, but he must have heard about me. He was counting on me to be easy. I have a room to myself, Oliver said when I didn't speak for too long, the words rushing out of his mouth and confirming my suspicion. You could come over, if you want. Why don't we grab dinner instead? I offered, keeping my face carefully blank. Tomorrow night? Dinner sounds great, too. Great. Then it's a date. Screw whatever Trent or Zach thought. I could date people. I was not easy. And I was going to prove it.